The full city council meeting, regular meeting Tuesday, August 6th, 7:01. Roll call.
Mayor Bennett,
Here.
Councilor Harris.
Here.
Councilor Stratton.
Present.
Councilor Weathers.
Here.
Councilor Murray.
Here.
All present. Thanks for the point. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And then I think you wanted to add something about the League of Oregon Cities vote,
Correct. Under other business.
other business, okay? That was for the legislature, plans or ideas and thoughts to put it down. So-
Right.
No consent agenda, public comments, anything? Yeah. Okay. We'll hold it. Council comments. Okay. Most report old business, new business on page 3, having to do with grading. Mr. Carl, tell us all about this, what we want to know.
And make it fun.
There's lots of graphs in here. That's what-
Okay, yeah.
No, that's all right.
Lots of pages.
Hey, everybody. This item, it ties into item number 2 under new business. We're trying to update our fee schedule. We're working furiously on this with e-permitting. E-permitting is set to go live mid-October. We need to get our building fee in. We need to get it under review. So the direction I'm seeking tonight is, are we gonna move forward with a grading ordinance? That came to you back in May when you had a first look at the building fee schedule. So I have the appendix J, which is what our Northwest Code Pros consultant mentioned from the 2024 International Building Code. Put the entirety of that in your packet. We currently have a grading ordinance in effect, however, it's outdated. It references something that's no longer in effect. So if we want to enforce grading within the city, I believe we need to adopt something new. And that's what I presented to you tonight. I did get input from the city engineer. He believes we need to have a grading ordinance in place. This ties into item number 2 because the final fee schedule that he instructed me to submit for notice needs to be firmed up tonight. So we need to decide if we're going to do grading or we're going to leave it. We're going to leave in the grading fees. If we want to not do grading, we need to take out the grading fees.
We got a hillside, we have. Let's go back to 2004, they never went in back then, but they signed it in, so this is just following up on it, you know, that's expired, extinct, or whatever, we're just putting a grading plan back into it, as I understand.
Correct.
Yeah, it's not even really hillside. We had an instance over here where somebody was excavating and, then there's wetland things and there's, all kinds. So if we have something in place to, bring people's attention to you can't just dig a big hole. Right. And fill it with. Or nothing, so.
So it sounds like option 1 is what you're looking at on there.
That's what I recommend. The council wants to go that route. I will prepare an ordinance for your second August meeting for a first reading. That ordinance, actually, let me back up. I'm going to prepare like a master ordinance. The master ordinance will adopt the new building fees. It'll implement the grading the new grading standards and it will repeal the old grading standards. So we'll do all of that in one ordinance.
Yeah,
Motion, you
Looks like-
want to know our guidance, right?
Correct.
provide a motion for option.
Without appendix, yeah.
You're a second.
I don't think we.
He said which direction,
We
but
just
we
want
want to adopt
direction.
appendix J in the next
Okay.
stage.
Okay, just had on here for possible action, so. So you're good with what, I think we're all in agreement.
I have what I need, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Page 12 has to do with fee schedules.
All right, I have in your packet a fee schedule that the Building Codes Division's e-permitting division has reviewed. They provided a lot of different comments, a lot of it was just editorial. It didn't functionally change anything. There were some fees that were duplicated, so I took those out. So here's the final schedule that they signed off on. I also followed up on the council's request from May to provide some before and after looks on what this fee schedule update would mean. So the permit technician for Northwest Code looked at 3 representative single-family building permits. She plugged in what it currently was charged. She plugged in what it would be charged under the adoption, and I have that summary in your packet along with the actual building permits. So there's an average little over $1,000 increase per single family home with the updated fees. They did the same with electrical permits. And there's an average 100 something that's in your agenda sheet increase for those electrical permits. And the last time we updated these was in the early 2000s. This conforms to the state's methodology. I'm asking for direction tonight so I can get started on the 45-day notice period. That will enable us to meet the e-permitting go live deadline of mid-October.
I know you spent time on those, on the, looking at plans. And you had a good number of hours? Or depend on the house or the whatever,
How many hours it takes me to review a plan?
yeah, for you.
If it's a,
Before you send it on,
if it's a routine, single family, there's no hillside development or anything of that nature, maybe 30 minutes to review for zoning compliance.
okay. Go ahead, yes.
You just said early 2000s that the fees were updated. It says 2012 here.
Okay,
Which is it?
yeah, it's 2012.
Okay. Because what, I was a little confused because I didn't read the title of the column very good, and it said, 1.3%, and I was, when I see a difference in a percentage, I always think it's the percentage increase. So I calculated the percentage and it's like 30 to 40%. So I just want us to know that. I also looked at what the inflation was since 2012. That's why I wanted to clarify that. And it is 36% or something, 38.
That's right there.
But the electrical permits, the increase is 60 to 70% increase. Why would that be?
I don't know why that's the case. I would have to,
Because that seems pretty steep.
yeah.
And these proposed rates, our valuation on houses are good right now. We haven't seen valuations on a new house like that for a long time. So I was trying to, not no building inspector, but some of it's based on square feet, but none of it's based on valuation. As a percentage. So when that valuation, if that goes down, those fees are gonna be pretty dang high, and that may inhibit development. if things go down a bit. But, you know, maybe everybody else's will too, and we could always look at it. But I just wanna go in eyes wide open that this is 30% increase and 60 to 70% increase, and we know that up front. And in the future, I'd really like those percentages on there, because I think that's transparency.
Sure.
You know. It just, because that was misleading to me as a, just kind of a looking through and, you know, 1%, hey, no big deal. So, anyway.
But if valuation goes down, those percentages of the proposed fee as percent of valuation climbs enormously.
Yeah, and can be an impediment.
Yeah.
So we just need to be aware of that.
Jeremy,
Go ahead.
are these fees comparable to other Oregon cities our size?
I haven't done that kind of analysis.
I feel like the last time we had this meeting where we talked about it, city engineer planner said that it was. I wasn't 100% confident actually.
And I tried to get online and see, I remember reading, because I was just gonna compare to Eugene, it was in the paper and I couldn't get back to them. I wrote a little sticky and thought, okay, as soon as we get this, I'll compare to that, you know, just as kind of, and I can't access that register guard issue because it's too old, and even though I got a subscription, so that was waste of time, but anyway, yeah, so I was able to do that. Because it's always just kind of good to know. Hopefully we're lower, but we might not be, I don't know, because of volume.
That $1,000 difference between, on, housing building permits, is that money we're not recouping from the builder or buyer? You know, so are we being charged for that now and taking the loss for it? Basically subsidizing their housing?
No, we're not being charged for that. Northwest Code, they keep a portion of the fees that we.
So they were charging us what was on the manual sheets.
We charge the builder.
I know, but still, when I see that $1,000 difference there, I didn't know if that meant that the people that inspect Northwest code people were billing us already at the $1,000 rate higher. You know, I know it's a good increase, but I don't really want to come back and address this in another year. When the other, we see that the other towns around us are already higher, we're lower than Northwest. I don't know if they're gonna start billing us at the higher rate then. Once we go online with whatever we want to charge, right?
Right.
And if we decide to charge less, then it just happens. They
We
don't
could-
charge us more.
Correct. We can set the fees to wherever we want. It just has to follow the methodology in the packet.
And it's a percentage, not a fixed fee that they get, right?
Northwest Code?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so if it fluctuates, they get their proportionate share, they don't get a fixed amount.
Right. So they're not charging you, so just getting a percentage. Okay, that way.
So-
Settings and bill.
Electrical permit, you're the electrical guy, I don't,
There might be a possibility that somebody that's certified to do an electrical inspection costs a different rate than somebody who does a building inspection.
Yeah.
I know that when Morier was doing it, they had a different person do the electrical
a
inspection.
little bit more specialized.
Yeah, there's a good possibility that could be the difference. Not positive of that, it might just be because it's electrical.
Well, and electricity scares me, so I would hope that there'd be something really capable there.
Yeah.
I'm with Maureen that anything that scares off building, there's always a possibility and probably a good likelihood that the housing market will take a downturn and we'll see less building going on. I mean, how's this gonna affect our 80 unit development that's coming in off of Carroll Street? You know, if he's building 80 units and that's 80,000, let's go $120,000 more for building permits.
Cause this is in addition to SDCs.
Yeah. So,
Which we raised, yeah.
so if, you know, the market cools and he's already tentative about building that 80 unit development and then another $120,000 just for rent fees and then other costs go up for doing his work. You know, probably looking at some grading fees that aren't even on here right now because we haven't implemented it yet. Do we scare off builders like that? So,
I'm hoping they're gonna reduce the interest rate soon. It might help a little bit.
yeah, hopefully.
I went to Crestwell's building site and I know it's not a perfect match, but they at least have a, really detailed spreadsheet where you can enter similar line to line compared to ours, and it's significantly more
In Crestwell,
in Crestwell. The electric fees alone for 1,000 square foot house far exceed what we're putting in. So that's just one data point. I haven't clearly compared everything to multiple cities, but it doesn't seem like the fees on, at least the electrical is out of bounds with what builders are seeing in other cities.
not facing some of this regardless of whether we raise them or not, because if things are start slowing down like we're hearing they're going to, it's gonna happen no matter what. So seems reasonable to raise them after these many years.
Cost inflation justifies it.
Exactly. And especially.
I mean, I don't know what the rates were based on in 2012, so who knows, you know? But
Yeah.
if they were accurate, then it's reasonable. Justified, huh?
Is that open a prayer?
Yeah. And point is to be a little bit more current.
Yeah,
Good motion.
No, we do.
oh, is there a motion on that? I'm sorry.
I moved to authorize the city administrator to send the proposed fee schedule to the building codes division to start the notice period.
Yes. We have a motion and a second, to authorize the city administrator to send the proposed fee schedules to the city or to the building codes division to start the notice period. Okay. Further discussion? All those in favor? Motion to authorize the city administrator to send a proposed fee schedule to the building codes division to start the notice period, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I should have done this in the discussion. We are gonna go to. Do we do a public hearing? Just first and second reading. No, also a public hearing. Can you add the percentage increase in there then just to get in there? Course.
Page 41, City Hall building, the old one. Mr. Carl.
This is the next big project I'd like us to move towards. This has been on our agenda for a year and a half now. And I'd like to start a discussion tonight and get your advice and your thoughts on how we want to approach this. So I have a couple options here. The first is to sell it as is, using for sale by owner. We'll obtain an appraisal. We'll draft an informational packet and timeline like we did last time. We'll conduct an asbestos test. I did some research and I believe that's the only test we're gonna need.
For an as-is sale.
Correct.
It's not that understanding that as is as is. Then it's up to the buyer to do their due diligence.
Well, let me back up. we could approach it that way. Or we could get the asbestos test so that the buyer could have the full picture of what's going on. So that's one of the things I'd like to discuss tonight. The next is prepare the property for sale using, doing any hazardous material remediation. We just, schedule destruction of the building through burn alert, hire a grading company to remove all the, debris. And another thing I'd like to discuss tonight is if you want to do for sale by owner, or if you want me to get started working on hiring a real estate professional to represent us in this transaction. That would require preparing a competitive request for qualifications. And I've presented some benefits and obstacles for both approaches in your packet as well. So I'm just asking for your thoughts tonight. If we need to go back and get more information, so we can have a clearer picture, that's okay too. I just want us to start planning for this project.
So we sold the other two ourselves, right?
Correct.
And I realized they didn't have, they had buildings on them. I'm trying to
We're
remember.
making lots.
Yeah. I think that's a difference, but. Pardon?
There can still be soil stuff, we ran into that as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I guess what I'm looking at is if we did it successfully, those two times, is it worth going that direction? And instead of spending all the money we're gonna spend to clear the property, I guess I'm trying to. I don't wanna be, I wanna do the smart thing, but I also don't wanna see us get wrapped up in this for months and months and months. Because we're doing all of this, if we can sell it as is. Are we really any farther ahead by doing all that other stuff ourselves? Probably not, because we're gonna spend a bunch of money to get rid of that building. You guys, anybody else have any thoughts?
I know you sold the other properties fairly quickly, but I don't know how much time you had to dedicate to it. So, I think, it'd be good to know if, how much the agent take time off your part. I realize you don't have to charge a fee, but is that worth paying somebody else versus, you having to do it the time you'd be spending on it? I don't know, so. They're professionals, I think it'll move very quickly, in my mind, so, whichever, and the other part of this key, or the keyhole over there, I think that person wants to sell too, so it would be an advantage to someone that might not hold into the, park or whatever, that property, so.
Well, to your point, Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think it would take me the same amount of time to prepare an informational packet for sale by owner as it would for me to prepare a request for qualifications and go through a competitive process to get a professional on board. And if we have a structured process with a timeline, final and best offer, that removes any obligation on my part, time on my part to go back and forth on negotiations. The benefit of a professional is, of course, they have a firm and resources where they can get a wider reach. They can perhaps negotiate directly with potential buyers, maybe get a better price. At the same time, we're paying commissions, so
You listed the other property on Zillow, didn't you?
I do.
Okay, that's great. And a few others, and so that if you notice, did you want?
Just gonna say, you brought up the other property might want to join in the sale, that might be easier to accomplish with a real estate agent.
Yeah.
They could
that I didn't
negotiate
see.
that
I didn't
multi-property.
see that in here, so.
There's two different parcels, so it'd be separate anyway. You would, you could,
They
you
would
could
engage their
represent
estate
both.
agent, yeah.
No, but they could do the conversations possibly, or at least start it.
I'm for selling as is with no additional stuff, as is as is, I think there's interest. And I think it's gonna be a local buyer. I don't think we're gonna advertise to across the state and everywhere. But I think that this time we ought to do a little bit of checking with old timers on what the use was. I don't recall. You know, just to do a little history check, and that won't take but a minute. You don't have to do it. But I think as is as is, and we don't put any kind of into it.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
I realize I'm asking this in public, which maybe negates the point of my question. Is there any chance there's anything that a reasonable person could say that we suspected there was asbestos in that building? And then if we sell it as is, they could come back and say, in a meeting note somewhere, you had a reasonable suspicion there was asbestos, you didn't mediate it or help legitimately notify. I really am asking, is there a risk there if we try to sell as is, that they could come back and use some public document?
Seems like it was written up as is,
That's
they're
the
gonna,
point.
that's the.
But as a,
You can't advertise it as free of
Right,
stuff
okay,
if you have knowledge.
and there's no higher responsibility because we're a public entity, or we're,
Not that I'm aware of.
okay,
so,
then as is.
I mean, anybody that buys that building has. I'm not up on this kind of stuff.
That little house
I
had
would-
asbestos in it over there and it was sold as is.
I would assume it has, I mean.
I'm just thinking of litigious people.
Yeah, no, I get it,
Who
but,
might buy it, seeing we say it as is, knowing that that might be something they.
well, I'm sure the lawyer will help us write it up in a way that it will be solid. What?
Caveat emptor,
What?
buyer beware.
Oh, yeah, I mean, have it written up in a way that, you know. Says this is your deal, you can't come back on us on anything, because it is as it is.
Yeah, we wouldn't want to hide anything. If
Well, we wouldn't
they ask if it is, you're gonna do a.
I think everybody is pretty well aware that any building built previously to the mid-1980s
That's
has
my
a
point.
very good chance of having asbestos in it.
They're
It's a common
going into
thing.
it expecting it,
Yeah.
yeah, especially if they get it acid.
If they
That's what
found
they're
something
hearing,
that was
if
like
anybody's
bizarre,
savvy.
But if they have to
asbestos
remediate it,
is a
they're a
common
private entity, they can do it cheaper than we can.
Exactly.
Way cheaper.
I just think we'll waste, well, maybe not waste, I just think we're gonna be ahead by doing it ourselves, and that's just more money we're juggling around in the budget and, you know. So,
I'd rather at least roll the dice with trying to use the building on it and see if it doesn't add value to the situation that somebody doesn't find value.
who knows, yeah, and I mean, we can always, if it doesn't sell or something, you know, I guess we can talk about it again, but I think we keep it as simple as we possibly can, get rid of it, get it off the plate.
I think we're pretty much in consensus on this.
So basically, we're saying option one.
Without the.
Yeah.
expense.
Without the extra expense, yeah. Okay, great as is.
I will start drafting an informational packet. I'll try to bring it to your 2nd August, 1st September at the latest.
Okay,
So you can have a review of that.
you had a question, Maureen? I didn't catch it. You mentioned something, I just.
Well, I was thinking something, but I don't think I said it out
okay.
loud, but
No, they're not, she was.
Does it-
I'm, when you say informational packet, I hope we're gonna go less than greater than with information. Again, knowing our audience is not the world that we have to educate about Lowell and all of this. I mean, again, your time is a premium. Less is better. These people do this for a living, so we're not trying to educate people on how to buy a house in Lowell or property in Lowell. We're just saying
Empirical.
it's
facts.
listed.
Yeah.
You know, the internet's a wonderful thing, so we don't have to prepare a brochure that we used to mail, you know, out to, I still get land sales stuff, you know, and it's like big color brochures that takes forever, and it's like, I don't know why to do that, but
I think 2 to 3 pages max and a few pictures.
2 to 3 pages. Okay.
Bring it back and we can look at it.
Is that double spaced?
Full print.
Tim and I are the.
Big picture.
I think the
Carpenter sale.
We want this to be as easy for you as possible.
Yeah.
Where the location is and let them do their work. Let them go to the county records and.
I mean, empirical facts with, you know, lot size, building size,
Yeah.
where it was built,
Not-
square footage.
Glossy sales brochure.
No, I think the biggest part is I just want to be clear about the process, so there are no misunderstandings or anything, that'll take most of the space.
Okay,
Are you gonna be able to bring that over from some of the other work that you've
Yes.
done already?
okay, okay,
Good.
I'm gonna say it's already sold lots, so
yeah, should be.
it's not creating whole
More
lots.
Does anybody, I mean, Donna Gale, I was just beginning, I think, on the city council, do we remember how much it cost to do the cleanup from the, Main Street property that we had to burn to learn on?
That we burnt over there,
Yeah.
the first one,
Jeremy can tell you that. He was
about a
here.
week ago,
I think Jeremy was here.
15,000, something like that,
Were you?
thing like.
Yeah, he finished up that.
Did you finish up the burn to learn on Main Street that we
With the
burned?
purple house?
Yeah,
No, the
No.
one before that,
The one before that.
oh,
yeah, so
The next
we've had two
Did
burns
you
to
go
learn
for
now.
corner of Moss and Main?
Jack Devereaux's old house.
It's me.
oh.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember.
Yeah, somewhere around 15, I believe.
Around 15,000.
Yeah, I think so.
I am the worst at remembering stuff.
But it is plus 7 more for the asbestos, so,
Previous to.
yeah.
So
Before
22,
before that.
25,000.
Yeah,
And
so,
that's why I say,
And then adjusted for
let's do
inflation.
this.
Yeah. With.
Right, looking at 35,
Let somebody else
40,000.
deal with it.
I
So you probably get to do it cheaper than.
I feel like the second people actually did it cheaper than the first people did. Like, I feel like the purple house actually was cheaper, whoever did that, and they did it really fast too,
Yeah,
I thought we did.
so.
yeah, he cleaned that lot off quick.
Yeah.
No,
It was also about
Oh.
5,000 or so. for
Yeah.
the- For the asbestos.
No, I meant,
We need a
Never mind.
checkbook.
no, yeah, yeah, okay. No, I didn't think we burned it, I meant what we paid for.
On to 43, setting up our state or our collection system.
All right, our agreement with professional credit services, our debt collector for past due utility bills, that's been expired for a long time. I'm requesting your approval tonight of a purchase order with them to authorize them to be our debt collection agency. And this purchase order is placed against the state of Oregon price agreement for debt collectors. The general terms of our arrangement with them are listed on the purchase order, and that's all going according to what the state of Oregon price agreement, what our agreement with Oregon buys says we have to have. The purchase order looks the way they say we have to have it. I'm just asking for approval so we can get a new agreement in place and hopefully beef up our delinquent debt practices.
Do you recall what the previous rate was?
I think it was the same.
17.5.
What are they collecting on? Water bill, sewer bill,
Correct.
court
Correct.
money, is that basically?
Yes.
Okay. They have much success.
It's been a while since we've got a payment from them. We've also recently, within the past 6 to 12 months, improved the information that we can collect or that we collect on new accounts so that we can have a better chance of getting collections such as social security numbers, driver's license, a copy of their identification. Just having somebody's first and last name it's very difficult. It's not possible.
John Smith.
I'm Jeremy Cottle.
Yeah.
So that's what we were doing in the past, and now we're collecting this identification. We've implemented safeguards protect people's information. But we now have the information we need, so if somebody is delinquent, we can have better success.
And not let them get into us too much to where it's too big a hole to dig out of.
Okay, I'll make the motion to approve a purchase order for general collecting services with professional credit service based on state of Oregon price agreement. 3360-20 and to authorize the city administrator to sign.
Yeah, motion second. Further discussion. All those in favor of the motion to approve a purchase order for general collection services with a professional credit service based on state of Oregon price agreement, PAE SPS 3360-20, and to authorize city administrator to sign, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? (46), we have somebody needing to resign from the library committee. When you get time.
We received a resignation letter from Annette. She's resigning for personal reasons. As we have done in the past with committee members who resign, I'm asking for your acceptance of the resignation so that it's reflected in the records.
We've got just 2 out of the 5 left. Are we finding volunteers leaving as well? Are we having just people pulling back? Or, I mean, it seems like each one of these is a, totally legitimate reason and personal, but is this having an effect on other volunteers?
This in particular isn't affecting other volunteers, but we have had some volunteer turnover just for personal reasons. And that was our lead volunteer. So she was the person who opened up on Saturdays and had extra privileges like with the security system. So with her leaving, that means we're not gonna have Saturday hours or extended evening hours. We've also had a few people just say they can't do it anymore. So we don't have the level of staffing to have the evening and Saturday hours. I sent out a letter at utility bills, folks have got the bills yet, issuing a call to volunteers and explaining the situation. And during the next edition of the bridge, I'll emphasize that. I think we're down to 8 regular volunteers.
And that's a real loss. I hope Peggy has expressed appreciation for all that she's done for us.
Yes. She's a great asset, great person. I hope she gets involved in that in the future.
Sorry. Good question.
Make a motion to accept. We have update sale this and that. Recipe. Ida Wells resignation from the library committee.
Second.
Okay, further discussion, thoughts? All those in favor of accepting the motion of Annette Whiskey Bitterwell's resignation from the library committee, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Sorry to hear about her problems. 48, charging and fueling stations.
Wayne County brought to my attention a grant opportunity for electric vehicle charging stations. And since we're conveniently located off of Highway 58, a major thoroughfare, they thought this would be a good spot for an electric vehicle. According to grant guidelines, it would have to be located on public property that's available 24/7. This will pay for the first 5 years of operating and maintenance. After that, it would be on the city. For a level 2 charger, they estimate that'll be $6,000 per year after year 5. Level 2 charger is the one that takes a few hours to charge up. Level 3 is the one that will charge you up very quickly. But as you can see, that's $70,000 a year to operate. The user fees that that somebody would pay for their power that they're purchasing, that would not cover our cost to maintain it.
Well, not 6,000, that's what they're saying now, but we're talking 5 years from now. Right?
So that's gonna-
Yeah.
Jeremy, a couple questions. If we could even find a public property that would make sense for this,
That'd be-
is there any commitment after the 5 years that we have to keep it and maintain it? And then the actual question, since many of these have businesses around them, have we talked to any of our local businesses like our grocery store about their interest in something like this to drive traffic to Lowell?
I haven't spoken with the businesses, about this opportunity.
Because if it doesn't commit us to maintaining this afterwards, this 5 years is kind of a test to see what impact, if any, it has, if we could find a spot for it.
But this specifically requires public property.
That's what I'm saying. If we could find a
The
spot
store
for
is
it,
private.
if it's close enough to be within walking distance of almost anywhere is what I meant, that if this was here, do our local businesses think that this might actually, because you gotta park and do something while your car's charging, that's all I mean. Because many of these along I-5 have stores that have popped up around them to provide business for people waiting for their cars.
Anyway,
I like your recommendation. Pass.
yeah, I do too. I think it's another thing on the plate right now, and it's not.
The council looked at this 5 to 6 years ago. And I remember one question that came up, and I'm not an electric car knowledgeable person, but at that point, they were saying that Tesla has one sort of plug-in and others have a different kind of plug-in, so it wasn't like the Teslas could go plug into it, or everybody could plug into the same one. It would make sense that yes, you could, but evidently, when you drive around, you'll see a bunch of these stations, these pods or whatever that say Tesla on them, and some don't, so do we know which one, is that still the case, or do we know which one to be looking at, because, you know, if, I just don't know, and I'm with him, after 5 years, can we say, take this away, but I have a feeling that we're gonna have to sign like a 10-year agreement or something like that, that we're gonna have to be committed to $6,000+ a year after that, and I'm not so sure that, if people buy an electric car, they're not looking to go down to the city to charge it, they're either charging it at work or at home at night, so, or they go to Target, plug it in over there.
Well,
But,
they're thinking travelers, and that makes sense. We're right off 58. I get that. I just don't know that, it's a good time to dive into this.
Reading the email at face value, it says that after the 5 years, the local municipality takes ownership of the station. I would assume ownership implies control. Which means, yeah, unless there is some verbiage that's not in here that they're, not including in this, I would assume that we would have an option at that point to just go, okay, we're not gonna maintain it. We got our use out of it, there's no way we can afford to pay for it and continue operating it.
Especially if it doesn't get use, right? The 5 years is the chance to see, does this actually get used? And then that gives us time to approach our businesses to see if there's any interest
I
in
mean,
partnering on.
I'm not very knowledgeable either, but I know people are looking, as they're traveling, they are figuring out where stations are, so there's that, but I guess my first reaction is we have lots going on right now.
I just don't think there's a big demand
I
for
don't
it.
either.
Again, they're putting this out to all cities. We're so different, and we're 10 minutes outside of Eugene
Yeah.
on 58 to a metro area where there's already businesses around a charging station.
I mean, I agree with you, but they also specifically called us out with interest for our location. Like, I'm not
What do you mean?
100% sold
Call this out.
Well, they.
because of our location on Highway 58.
They see us as a good spot.
Yeah, that's
Well,
what-
you know,
And this is, who's doing this grant? I guess I should have read that better.
Senior Program Services Coordinator, New County.
This is something they put out to every city, so.
Well, yeah, I
And
understand
It
that.
seems like you would wanna have a business associated with this, like what you're saying, and most of these are close to shopping centers. If you're traveling or whatever you're doing, you plan it, so you're gonna go in there and eat, or whatever, and then come back out with the car's charged and move on. That's, Joyce, our old, she went to Salt Lake City, and that's what they did, they planned their stops, so that they were at shopping
Even
centers,
the
went
city-
inside, ate, walked around, and, but, 2 hours of Lowell is a.
Well, boat rentals.
Yeah.
Well, evening, let's see, we need a.
But see,
cafe
that's
or
gated too,
something.
you know, and every place that's, that is gated, you know, you have to have 24/7 access.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't see,
So even City Hall.
see it right now anyway.
I'm
Eventually.
clearly in the minority, but I'll just say again that
Love you.
it's, thank you. This is 5 years, if it happened, of us being able to see if there's a demand for this without having to pay that cost.
There could be some residual benefits to this too, so.
I'm interested.
So let's, I am as well, actually. I think if we could choose, like, let's say where the gravel parking lot is adjacent to Stomping Grounds Coffee. And so what's not mentioned in this here is installation. They're talking about operation and maintenance. What they don't say is the installation costs of this. What they're basically gonna do is they're gonna bring an electrical service into the corner of the park over there. There could be some residual benefits after 5 years. We've kind of kicked the can down the road in terms of doing our upgrades in Rolling Rock Park. After 5 years, if there's an electrical service there to provide enough amperage for a charging station, there would be enough amperage there to provide electricity to our entire park. And that service would be installed, and would have been installed on this grant, not through our fees. At the time, we choose to put more street lighting in the park, another bathroom in the park, foot lighting in the park, those kind of things. We're gonna be paying a lot of money to do that at that point in time. This could be an off ramp to offer us that opportunity to have that service already in the park building.
If they let us do that.
We
Yeah,
can
ban
ban
that
that.
stuff, you know.
We need to look into what ownership means and whether there's any terms involving after the 5 years, but I'm with. Where's the loss for us? I mean, it's gonna take a little bit of time, Jerry, you know, maybe Jeremy and Max's time, but they're gonna take over this and turn it over to a contractor to do this. They're going to be doing the heavy lifting, not us. So,
I think there's a charging station at the school.
is there,
It's-
it wouldn't surprise me, so.
I just, what I'm worried about is us trying to do things that aren't meeting a need, you know. That's a good point about doing it for something else, but that's also kind of disingenuous to take somebody's money and then, you know. But if they're willing to do it, and that's what happens with grant money sometimes, when you get through that period, then, you know, cause you don't have to keep stuff that was bought with grant money forever.
Especially if
Because
it's not
nobody's
being
gonna
used.
track it.
Yeah.
Clearly, I see that.
And we would be committing like city space for 5 years, so I think we would have skin in the game in essence, and. Yeah, I think it comes down to that, what is our commitment afterwards? If there's any commitment, then no, I don't support this because we can't afford it, but if there is no commitment, I hadn't even thought about. Infrastructure.
They
But it
might
says
even,
there is, I mean, it's gonna cost us about,
To run
Once, yeah,
once
if-
it's over, it costs us about, they say, 6,000 a year to maintain it.
if we choose to maintain
and we need to find out if that's a
Agreed.
choice.
it. Agreed.
and
So-
then there could be some other improvements here along with this. I mean, what I see on most of these charging stations is they're actually paving spots and stuff like that. They're not just like throwing a
Sticking
pole
up
with an
gravel.
outlet on it.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll do like, they'll probably do, my guess is there'll be an alterable paved handicap spots that will be able to be charged there. There'll probably be at least 1 or 2 other parking spots that will be able to be charged there. They'll probably put some adjacent stuff that's infrastructure. That corner gravel lot could use some improvement on our parking. We've already looked at that in terms of the long run for parking, for the park in the long run and for the Blackberry Dam and stuff like that. So I don't know.
There's a lot of federal, in the current administration, grant money for EV systems, so I think we shouldn't assume they go cheap.
Yeah.
I'd like to find out
Started
also.
yet, but yeah, I'm just not wild about it. It'd have to be a heck of a deal doesn't take a lot of.
I don't wanna do a lot of heavy lifting
Bandwidth.
with this, and I don't wanna end up with an obligation after the 5 years.
That's all that's what I'm concerned
Or even during the 5 years, I mean, it says
Yeah.
it pays for operation, but what about, vandalism and?
Yeah.
You know. Hey,
It says operating maintenance would include vandalism, again, in my opinion, their verbiage should addresses that, so. I'd like to find out about what happens after 5 years, what obligation we have.
Yeah, I read that letter as, we want to take on the work. We just need you to be a partner in space.
Can I do that so that Jeremy isn't saddled with doing that? Because again, I think
Yeah,
he's got
that's-
better things to do than.
I think it'd be a real quick
chasing this.
email, and we have their email address, so I think it'd be a real quick email just asking if.
Well,
there's
and
other-
this is a link, there, we can look at this grant, I'm, look at grants all the time, it's a start.
I'm all in for that, Maureen.
Yeah. If you
I'll
don't
read it,
mind.
I got time.
Yep.
So. I can read it.
Cause that's part of my concern is they just don't want to add it.
I'm all in on this if there's no obligation after the 5 years.
Especially since Lane County is the one responsible for doing the grant work. Like, I'm struggling to see a lot of time commitment on the city's part. Because I've listened to you talk about just some of the overhead in dealing with grants for really modest amounts. If Lane County is gonna do the work to apply for it, maintain it, deal
But
with the
they
grant
always need
administration.
information.
I was gonna say,
They
I know.
always do. That's never
I know.
free money.
Which is why I take Tim's point about that this might bring infrastructure to the city that we don't have to pay for,
That's the
that we will get to
only
keep.
reason that I think we ought to look at it.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for that.
Yeah.
I
Then,
hadn't thought about that. But I hadn't thought about where we were gonna put it either, that's my first.
I love that corner lot of the park out there. I think it'd be an awesome spot for this, and I think stomping grounds and others, if there's a possibility, it could benefit some local businesses.
Well, yeah, cause the store's right there and the stomping ground's right there. Okay,
I thought it was.
All right, you
low.
guys should win.
Yeah, thank you very much.
to at least look deeper into it.
Thank you in advance, Maureen.
Yeah, thank you.
I will report back.
If you don't talk to them, see if they, if this charges all vehicles or just certain ones, because seems like you see Teslas all over the place. And this is for bolts or something else,
And I
and,
don't know what that means if
you know,
they.
I know lots of people that have electric
Yeah.
cars, so I can ask them.
Yeah, that would be a good question. I know nothing.
okay.
Several people here and my sister. and such.
Okay.
That I don't think I don't.
Leave that over to people working on it. Other business that what's legal work in cities priorities for legislative action coming up. Do we know what they're looking at this time around? The last time we talked to Charlie Conrad,
It's,
I know it wasn't infrastructure anymore, it was
I read
something
it.
else.
Want me to give you my
Oh, you have it?
notes? Yeah, I had time, boy. Give me, Darren's great. If, in the table of contents, it's broken out by those 7 committees. And one that's in both community and economic development and in the wastewater and wastewater committee is the infrastructure funding. So I think that's a gimme. I mean, that would be our top priority, I think, based on what we have
Water,
on
I
our
saw
agenda.
that too, and I thought the same thing.
Then there's a shelter and homeless response, employment, land readiness, and full funding for housing production. To me, those are not as direct for here. Under general government, there's 3 restoration and recreational immunity, which I would support that we're a tourism kind of place. Behavioral health enhancements and continued addiction policy reform, those are great for the larger cities. Not that we don't support it, but they're more likely to do that. The Energy and Environment Committee. Again, it didn't seem as relevant here, same as the finance and taxation, but then on the broadband, cybersecurity, AI and telecommunications, I thought there was 2 that we might want to be interested in. One is the digital equity and inclusion, because you're talking about extending service to rural areas, which would, obviously be a benefit to us, and the cybersecurity and privacy,
Right.
just because of our internal systems and all that kind of stuff. And then there's a couple others there, the transportation stuff, doesn't look that relevant. Then again, under water and wastewater, the infrastructure thing is listed twice, so that we already counted that. And then there's two that are interesting, and I put question marks, place-based planning and operator in a training apprenticeships. And place-based planning is to complete existing, I don't know what place-based planning is. But efforts across the state to identify funding to continue the program for communities that face unique water supply challenges.
Yeah.
So that's what caught my eye. Oregon's water supply management issues are complex. They did this in 2015, created a place-based planning pilot program. It'll never, in 2023, recently, the legislature passed a significant bipartisan drought resilience and water security package, which included 2 million into a place-based planning water fund to address by a basin by basin approach, and I thought that might be relevant to us. And then operator and training apprenticeships, you know, that's the whole, you know, getting people to do water and wastewater operators, and then, you know, again, that's that's our key service that we provide, that we need to have people for. We have good people now, but, you know, that's something we're always probably gonna face. So, but
I think those make sense.
I think that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, we're supposed to do 5. So that's why I thought place-based planning or operator and training and apprenticeships would be where I would have come on one or the other. If that was just me.
In my meeting.
And I did this just to kick it off, because I mean,
Yeah, all right. Thank you for doing that. In some of my meetings, I seem to think. Because when we talked, Charlie last time, was talking about the water sewer system, stuff like that. And I think what he said is they're looking more at transportation, this coming legislative. The last time they funded a whole bunch of water sewer. And so this next time, you know, it's not in that packet by the League of Oregon Cities, but just him talking with the leaders of the parties and stuff like that. It seemed like that was more the where the money was going to be going. But I, like I say, it's been a few months, and I'm not, because I was asking about the water and sewer, and he said that he didn't see anything being. They did that last time. He didn't see that much more, so I don't know. But nothing wrong with
10 times
listening.
more important
Yeah,
than.
nothing
But
more.
the point is
I
we're
can't disagree with you, but you know, it's been important for the last 10 years, and finally we got 1 year where we got support in it, and there's nothing wrong with listing those just the way you said. I have no problem with that at all. I think it's a good idea.
They all make sense to me.
Yeah.
When you look through.
It's
It's
our
not
need-
about the infrastructure, it's also in economic development, you know,
Right.
community and economic development. It's not just a.
Right.
It fits our needs, what you're saying, correct? Yeah. Yeah. Yes,
I'll make one little pitch for the shelter and homeless response. This is stretching this one a little bit, but earlier in when the governor sent out a call for homeless response programs, I worked with Jeremy, who wrote a white paper on how support and expansion of our food pantry program would, and this is something other cities have done, contribute to prevent homelessness. And we documented just the sheer number of families in Lowell that utilize that service. So that's my pitch for that one.
That infrastructure, homeless infrastructure, not food.
Right.
The white paper was specifically on how,
I mean, this, there,
yeah, how critical the infrastructure need of that pantry is, that it's really held back.
but I mean, shelter.
That's why I'm saying it's like stretching the definition of homeless services, that prevention could be part of that. I mean, we're just voting on endorsing overall theme. It's not like we're picking specific factoids here. But this is something that is a need of this community, where we already have the documented information. If we were ever asked to share what money would do to improve that service.
Well, and you know, people, I don't think that's just for Lowell. I mean, there's lots of people outside of Lowell who come to that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, so that, and there's a way to articulate that this has broader impact. I don't know that I care how we vote on this, I'm just
I just
making the
don't see
pitch
how
that,
it fits in here, so that's why I was,
I mean, I think it's a great, you know, thing to, yeah, it says shelter, so I don't know. On homeless response. I have to look into what that,
that's where I read into that phrase, that this is something other cities have done as a preventative measure for homelessness specifically, so.
Anything else on the legal activities?
well, are we giving, I mean, Jeremy, do you want a list? Is that what you were,
he has to vote.
right?
Yes, I'd like your top or your 5 priorities that you'd like me to put in for the city. We have until the end of September, so if you want to come back to this at your next August meeting, that's perfectly fine. If you need more time to review this document.
I don't know, I think those things made sense.
I vote for what Maureen did,
Yeah, it was just,
I vote for the work you did.
yeah. Seriously,
Which would you like better, the place-based planning or the operator training? Drought, resilience, water security,
I think the place-based planning.
yeah,
because it's more forward thinking.
yeah.
Okay, Castor Weathers, kind of when you read those off to me, it'll be slow.
Oh,
And it's gotta be the same 5 you said last time.
it's the start.
Oh,
It's already been.
Easier to flow.
They're gonna fight for all of these
Thank
things.
you again, Maureen.
When I was at cabin.
So did the 2 dogs.
They don't, they about 8 at 7 o'clock, they're to bed, so it's like.
Drastic. What they are.
Yeah.
So just so everybody knows, under community and economic development, we have infrastructure funding. Under general government, recreational immunity, under broadband, cyber, digital equity and inclusion, cybersecurity and privacy, underwater, wastewater, infrastructure, place-based planning. So that's what I'm gonna punch in.
Sounds great.
Sounds good.
Then you can get it done and.
Yep,
And that's off your list.
piece of cake.
Thanks, Maureen.
Anything else?
You give it the electrical portion. The, cars that come with the electrical problems or whatever they plug it in. It has an adapter they can plug into the other machines. And I'd like to see a little bit on how much it costs for using the material. The people are willing to pay for it if they are. And it might be a profit-making proposition. But you don't know until you really find out what the costs are and what is being charged. If you're gonna just make a decision, it's worthwhile in my mind to get all the information together you can.
Who else do you folks know that have an electric car in town? You have one? Yeah, okay. Anybody? Because it's always easier to approach somebody. No, just- Okay.
How about, Joe?
Joe and George, Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll do.
You
Yeah.
got it.
I mean, I got plenty, but
There's
I
that-
charge
Isn't
you,
it
if you
there's-
need somebody,
It's their second,
What are they charging? They're charging cars.
yeah,
How much money are you
Tim,
paying
they're on
to
their
charge that
second
car?
test.
I know. I was gonna say, no one in my economic bracket has an electric car yet.
I got one of those little Power Wheels from a long time ago.
Oh,
I just have gas on too.
I want the light
Thinking about asking Jimmy.
before like the gas getting 9 hour gas price.
Whatever.
So we will look into it for sure, or we're gonna make a decision.
Maureen will look into it for sure.
There's lots of thank you Marines going on today.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen.
Retirement's good.
It's not gonna happen every week, but you know, because I'm not reliable.
Very generous this week.
I have a moment.
Anything else for anybody? Okay, we'll be adjourning the regular meeting, and we'll be going to executive session, so say goodbye to you, adjourned at 8:06.
You know,